Like, I wish young people knew this because we're always like, get your grades, get your honors, get your stuff.
Yeah.
Baby, you do not know this right now. You can have all of that together. And if someone does not want you in a position politically, they will sit you down.
Yeah.
I mean, it does not matter. And so the movement, the Stop Playing Diversity, and just the things that I'm talking about right now, I use the word dissonance. It's like bringing together the dissonance of I'm
Hmm.
a presidential awardee, yet somebody's calling me unethical. A quote that I often tell people is that sometimes there is not a blueprint, but you cannot be afraid to be the blueprint.
Yeah.
We were never taught that. Like,
Hmm.
it doesn't exist. You're like, I just want to be you said a biochemist and I want to do this and I want to
Hmm.
study, da da da. If it has never been done, don't let that deter you. Just know it might be bumpy.
Welcome. Welcome back to the STEM in the Gap podcast, where we try to bridge the gap between the majority and the minority in STEM fields through productive and insightful conversations. We're continuing our series of bringing on minority voices in STEM to give insight into minority involvement in STEM and how young people can get involved. And today I have with me Dr. Monica Cox, who is a distinguished professor of engineering at Ohio State University and the creator of the Stop Playing Diversity movement. She's an author, authenticity coach, equity consultant, and entrepreneur. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Cox. Could you briefly introduce yourself to your viewers and to our viewers and the work that you do?
Yes. Thank you, Gavin, for having me on your podcast. As I said before I started, I'm very impressed with your trajectory and how you are moving forward. So I am all of those things. I am a professor, but I often say as I get older that I don't want my identities to just be focused on my professional accolades. So I am a wife, a mother, an author. I am hopefully just a good person, a person of integrity, and a person who wants to make life better for others. So that is very general, but I think that as the conversation moves forward, we'll probably go more into details. So I've done a lot. I'll say that. I've done a lot in my 20
Yeah.
plus years as a professional, very blessed to have been in engineering education with degrees in math, industrial engineering, and PhD in policy studies. But I'm realizing that life is more than that. And so I look forward to talking about that with you today.
Yeah. Sounds great. Okay. I'm just going to go right into it then. I usually like to start with the person's background.
Mhm.
I think it's safe to say you have had a unique background growing up in rural Alabama to now becoming a leading voice in engineering education and among other things. Could you kind of take us through that development from your childhood to where you are now?
Yes, yes. So I am a Southern girl at heart. I always say that, like, no matter how long I've lived in the Midwest, I have this Southern accent and I am just very much connected to my ancestral roots. So, my people are from Alabama. And growing up, I did not have access to a lot of advanced STEM. So my parents enrolled me in community college classes and just supplemental like camps so that I could learn more about things that weren't always prevalent within my small Alabama community. So I did some summer programs as well. I applied to Spelman College and received a full scholarship as a NASA
Well,
scholar. Yeah, and that was really great. I had a chance to work at Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, and then I also had an opportunity to go to graduate school, sponsored by NASA as well. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I went to get my PhD in leadership and policy studies because I always wanted to be a university president.
mhm.
Um, from there, I went to Purdue University and the College of Engineering where I became the first Black woman to earn tenure, and I received a presidential award during that time from President Barack Obama for my research. I graduated a lot of students. Then I went to the Ohio State University, where I was an inaugural department chair. I became a full professor. Again, first Black woman at this point to be a full professor at Ohio State, first Black woman department chair, and I still think the only Black woman department chair in the College of Engineering at Ohio State. And man, I did a lot of stuff. And like during the pandemic, I realized that I had this interest in writing, so fiction,
Hmm.
and I watched YouTube videos to understand more about like the romance genre. And one book became two, became like countless books. And so I just released my 15th book that's been published since October 2023. You know, as I am a distinguished professor of engineering, as I'm doing all the things, as I'm the mother of a 7-year old, I mean, I don't know. I'm just very blessed. And so I've learned a lot about life over the
Wow.
years.
Yeah. And I mean, as we've just heard, you've done a lot there. Would you say there was a person, a moment that kind of maybe spurred you to become all that you became, and do all these amazing things, maybe to your childhood or when you were at university?
Yeah. You know what? It's so funny because I'm going to get a little bit into feminism and Black feminism. I grew up, as I said, in the South, and there were a lot of very traditional roles. So, you know, men were a certain way. You know, women were kind of like domestic, as they would say back in the day. But I would say, like, I was my father's only child, and I was a woman. He was a military man. And I think because he also was a teacher, he and my mom were teachers during the civil rights movement, and they saw segregation and also integration. Um,
Mm,
they kind of came from a place where I could do anything. And so I feel like they like I didn't know that there were boundaries for me, like as a Black person or as a woman. You know, I just went to the computer science courses in the 1980s when they still had the big computers. um, you know, I just did the things because my dad had been exposed in the 1950s to serving in Germany. He had seen the world even as the US was segregated. I think he knew that there was more out there for me. And so the way that I was raised was very much limitless, even if the environment said I should be limited. And years later, you know, when I was at Purdue and I was like breaking these barriers, people were like, well, why is it that you're so confident? Like as a woman, as a Black woman, as the first, as the only, you know, where does that come from? Like you didn't let the ceiling get you. And I said, I just didn't know. I didn't know there was a ceiling. You know, only when I was in environments where people like thought that I couldn't do something, I was kind of like, what? Where'd
right.
that come from? Like, I know I can come up here and be great. And so that's why I often tell people, like, before I was 40, I was a department chair. Like, in 10 years, I went through like the entire trajectory of being a faculty member from assistant professor, associate professor, full professor, presidential award, like all those things.
Mm,
And even got to a point where I remember when I was 35, I was like, is this it? This is boring. Like I felt like I had mastered like
wow.
what I was supposed to do. And so that's why, like, even at my age, I'm continuing to reinvent myself. Like, it just makes sense for me to cross industries and say, like, yes, you know, I've been a professor, I've done all those things, I've graduated, I think, like 10 PhD students and, you know, countless postdocs and done things, but I have to continue to evolve
Right.
because it is just not about me being that professor and sitting in it.
Right. Yeah. Wow, that's a lot, and I think that is definitely something that we have tried to echo in the, you know, because as you were saying, what helped you a lot was not being aware of the barriers and not letting that limit you. And one of our goals here is to try and make it so that young minorities can feel like STEM is a place where they belong. And a lot of times they don't have that feeling. I just want to ask from your research and experience, what in like that kind of space and in STEM education do you think those students need to hear, or would be able to motivate them to kind of have that mindset, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. You know what? Um, let's see. I was on a panel a couple of weeks ago, and I was kind of reflecting on like my experience as a professor and like kind of how I would grade the experience. And ironically, I said I would give it a C just because, like, when I went to Spelman College, we talked a lot about sisterhood. So, you are your sister's keeper. There's a way that you're supposed to um, work collectively to build each other up. And I think
Mm-hmm.
higher education and just work in general separates you. It is very like capitalistic, it is very competitive, and so you're continuing to prove yourself that you are worthy and that you are the best if you want to be promoted. But I want to go back to that sisterhood model, that community based model that is really the opposite of work. I mean, I think that I would tell young people, like, always tap into your community, whether it's like your spiritual community, your family community, your friend community. Like for me,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's the author community, because that is what keeps you grounded.
Yeah.
And I think so often, and remember, I told you, like when I started off, I said, I'm not going to lead with my identity of like, I'm Dr. Cox. I did this, I did that stuff. Like, that is, if I use the word, that is like the cult, I think, of the workplace, to kind of be
Mm-hmm.
like, your work is dependent on like your accolades.
Right. Well, you can
Because
put it
if
on the
you
resume.
Absolutely, because if you end up, I mean, I guess the analogy that I would have comes back to like maybe school. And like if you get a C in math, you may be like, well, I can't learn math. No, you just maybe got a C on a test, but it doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
that you can't learn. It does not mean that you can't be like an engineer. It doesn't mean that you can't be successful. It's just that you made a C on a test. And so I think you have to translate that in life to, like, if you don't get a promotion, if you don't get a grant, if you don't get that thing, you're still worthy. But society and how we move over time defines our worth based upon um like the like, what is it, the accolade, the assessment, the achievement.
Right.
So
Yeah.
point, I tell my students, I said, I go on a bunny trail and then I come back. I promise you, I know what you asked me. It's just the way that my brain works and the way I process it. Um, I say to young people, just know your value before you enter that place.
Mm-hmm.
Work on your character, work on your humanity first. And I think like the doors that are meant to open for you will open, and the ones that are meant to close for you will close. But I will give that caveat. I am a high achiever, so it has been hard when the doors have closed for me. It is hard when I have not gotten that top thing,
Yeah.
because everything in school and society tells you, like, be number one. And I've even told people, like, I'm not stop playing diversity podcast and the work I do. I say, you know what? I'm not trying to be a workplace valedictorian.
Mm-hmm.
That like that does not exist anymore. I had to take into consideration my caregiving, caregiving for my mom, caregiving for my kid, my wellness, my marriage, like all those things that you want out of life, like that has to be taken into consideration too, not
Right.
just your job or your
Right.
degree.
That balance. Yeah,
That was a lot.
for
That was
sure.
a long answer.
No,
Hopefully.
yeah. I think that was definitely really rich, and I think something that I want to move to go a little bit deeper is, I think, a lot of, as you were saying, doors close, and that can be really hard for some people. I've done some research into this, and there are certain statistics that have, like, for black students at STEM majors at certain colleges, it's like a 40% attrition rate. A lot of students enter STEM, and a lot of them leave. And I think part of that is, again, the confidence. And I think that kind of goes to show how much persistence it takes. What do you think? What's like a misconception or something that you would have to say about the type of persistence or what you kind of need to have to be able to stay in that space even when the doors may close or you may feel that kind of barrier.
Oh, okay. So let me just process this for a little bit. Um, I kind of alluded to a little bit. I think, like if you don't do well in a particular thing, that it's about like not giving up. It's like going and knocking on another door. And
Hmm.
just realizing that this is also how life is. Um, you don't get everything that you want. There are a lot of other people who want the same things. And then sometimes there are things like politics involved and, just societal things. Like it's just not the time for you to move forward with a thing. And you can't let that just be like the final answer for you. Like if there's a goal, if you feel called to do something, if there's something in your heart, then that's it. You're going to get it. You're going to move forward with that. And I think it's about like staying focused. My late dad used to tell me this all the time. Um, stay focused. Like
Mm.
even as an adult, it was just like stay focused. There's so much noise around us, noise from people who say like, "Oh, you shouldn't do this," or they'll question, "Why are you doing this?" or "Nobody else is doing this," and "How are you going to do this?" Like there are so many opinions that are around, but when you're really focused on your goal, your purpose, and the thing that has been spoken to you about who you are, then you can keep moving, even if there's failure, even if there are naysayers, even if there are distractions and pauses. Like I feel like that's what persistence is.
Right.
It's like the tortoise and the hare. Is that it? Is that the tortoise and the hare? Is that is anyway? That's some story, but you know what I mean. Like it's not about going fast all the time. It's
Right.
about being persistent. And so, another metaphor I tell people is that it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep,
So
for sure.
this is not fast fashion. This is not something where it's like I just did this today and I'm going to see the result. Everything takes time, and I often tell people focus on quality, not just quantity.
Mm.
Like your brand is, consistently showing up and doing what you need to do to get
Right.
the outcome that you want. So it's that, it's the slow part. It's not the instant gratification. And I think that's something that young people have to learn, but also old people, everybody has to learn that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Definitely agree. That's really rich.
Mhm.
So now I just want to take a quick switch into some of the stuff that you're doing, particularly the Stop Playing with Diversity initiative, where you're kind of, combating some of those like weaker surface level, like, workplace DI initiatives. I thought that was really intriguing. Could you tell me and your viewers a little bit more about that?
Yes. So years ago, like before like all the things came with like removing DEI programs, I said that I didn't ever want to do diversity, equity, inclusion. Like I knew I was the first, I knew I was the only, but I said, nope, nope, I don't want to get caught up in that or pigeonholed in it because that's just gonna like brand me, label me, like I'm always gonna be the go-to person for all things like black or all things black women. I was like, no, 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 I gotta do other stuff. And I just felt that it was very difficult for me to just separate myself from what the reality of it was. Like, even if I wanted to say, I'm not going to focus on being the first, the responses in the environment always pointed back to me being the first. The fact that I had to educate people all the time. And so I started one movement called Prepare to be a Pioneer. And I said, I was prepared to be a professor. I knew how to write grants. I knew how to like publish, but I wasn't prepared for the stereotypes and the emotional labor that came with
Mm.
being this person. And this, it's almost like, I'll give the example really quickly. It's like being a celebrity and you don't realize you're a celebrity, but it comes, everything that comes along with it. But it's not in a good way either. It's not like, oh, I'm Beyonce, so I'm now getting all the accolades. It's like, no, I
Right.
am the celebrity who is now expected to do all the things that had not been done 100 years before. And I'm like, whoa, where did this come from for me to be the spokesperson for all things black, all things underrepresented? Like, no, I am not ready for that. And so I would say that the movement came because it was needed. I
Mm.
wish that people before me had prepared me, but there was no one to prepare me. So it was like I was creating the blueprint for people who would follow me so they wouldn't be shocked when somebody mixed you up with the other Black person. It's like, there are only two of us. Like, can you not tell? And they're like, nope, I can't. I can't.
Yeah.
That's your name. You know, like, oh, did you grow up? And they're like, I don't, what are you talking about? Like, I'm from the South. I did this. I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, you know what I mean? It would just be like the hit that would come as you're trying to maintain the professionalism that is expected. And so
Mm,
stop saying diversity is just breaking down stuff, you know, similar to how I'm telling you like all the lessons learned. It's just, you know, hey, this is what I've learned after 20 years. Make sure you do this. Know your identity. You know, don't leave with this. If it's failure, like keep moving. Get your community. That's really what it is. It's a blueprint for liberation. And when you feel bound, and this is one of the things I'll tell people. People often think that because you have a PhD, but you know all the accolades, that's why I tell you, like, even in my back here I have this one, so I'm sorry, it's this, I'm pointing to it, but like that's my,
okay.
you can't see it, but that's my citation from President Barack Obama when I
Wow.
got my presidential award. And I was going through really hard times at work with
Mm,
a supervisor. And do you know, and I tell people this and they cannot believe this, I was so down and out that this citation from the president of the United States, the first Black president of the United States, was in a box for 4 years.
wow. Wow.
I did not look at it. I was just like, like, whatever, you know, like that. That was a whole level of stuff that people cannot understand. And so getting back to you, I told you I'm gonna go and I'm gonna come back. I have these long answers. Um, you know, even in my romance, which was like a release for me to try and get
Hmm.
myself together so that I could even have another way to share stories that I probably couldn't say out loud because they are so atrocious. Um, you know, I wanted people to know that up and out people also have issues. The
Mm,
ones with the six-figure salaries, the ones who have the titles, the ones with the presidential awards, like we struggle too. And that's what this movement is about too. Like, I can't let
mhm.
anyone else go through this and actually be deceived. You know, like I think if there is someone who does not want you in a position, and this is the ugly part, it's like I wish young people knew this because we're always like, get your grades, get your honors, get your stuff.
Yeah.
Baby, you do not know this right now. You can have all of that together. And if someone does not want you in a position politically, they will sit you down.
Yeah.
I mean, it does not matter. And so the movement, the Stop Playing Diversity, and just the things that I'm talking about right now, it is I use the word dissonance. It's like bringing together the dissonance of I'm a
Mhm.
presidential awardee, yet somebody's calling me unethical. Yet someone is saying that I don't deserve to be a department chair, that I didn't earn my accolades just because you think that I didn't earn it, because you don't know my story, because you don't think
Right.
I'm qualified. Never had a supervisor who was Black, who was young, who was 20 years younger. And you're like, that can't be possible.
Yeah.
That's a whole level of like psychological, um, it's trauma. It's workplace trauma.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for workplace trauma.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's a lot. That's brutal. I was like, I don't know if you want to know the truth or if you just want to know, like, it's just great. Go and get your engineering degree. You're just going to have a wonderful life. And
Yeah.
what? And what?
Right.
You know? And so
Yeah.
there's one thing I would want to share. I mean, I know I'm going off just a little bit, but it's the thing that I think is very important for your listeners.
Hmm.
If someone were to ask me, like, what, because I told you I used to want to be a university president. Now I'm like, ugh, I don't even know if I want to do that because I
No.
would just be like, "Well, overturn the system. Like we got to like shift it." But this is the vision that I have. Someone really asked me if I could like be president of my alma mater, Spelman College, or if I could, um, you know, be president of a university and I could like talk to the young people and like do what I need to do. What would my vision be? I would
Hmm.
tell young people, like, school prepares you to go into corporate places. It prepares you to go into like the boxes that have
Hmm.
been created for you. But I want our young people to create their own systems. I want you to have something for yourself where you can generate your own wealth.
Mhm.
Where someone tells you that you are not worthy, you're like, you know what? I got you. That's your opinion. But I got my thing over here that is built. I have the infrastructure. I'm going to do what I need to so that it won't mess with my livelihood. And while you're up here being like racist, sexist, whatever the thing is that is going through your warped mind, I'm
Right.
good. My income
Right.
is still coming in. I'm still connected to my community. I'm still doing the things. And I just think that is the problem with higher education. We are teaching you to be robots. We are teaching you t- like to be like the test when you need to create your own infrastructure,
Mhm.
get your degree, but get it to build your own thing.
Right.
That's the
Building those
conclusion.
systems.
I'm
Wow.
done with that.
Yeah.
That was a
No,
lot.
that was really great. That kind of I had a few questions to ask, but that really encompassed a lot of what I was going for, and I think that's I kind of want to end off on that, just kind of commenting on the building your own system so that, as you were
Yes.
saying, the trauma where you couldn't even open your presidential award for 4 years, right? Where you kind of you have your own thing to be able to even with that somebody else, it doesn't, right? You have your own thing, and
Yes.
I think that is really important for a lot of young people to hear. So yeah, I think I'm gonna end it off. If for any of the viewers watching, be sure to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, however many channels there would be. Dr. Kotz, I don't know if you have any final comments you want to make, or
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me on all platforms, drmonicacox.com, Monica Cox, and then author Monica Cox. I have some spicy stuff out there, but I also have some nonfiction, a book called Never Defeated. I have a book on excellence that I think would be really great. And it talks about like how to be a workplace disruptor, how to be never defeated. Like whenever you go through like some of the things that I'm telling you today, like build your own stuff, do this, do that. These are the blueprints. And a quote that I often tell people is that sometimes there is not a blueprint, but you cannot be afraid to be the blueprint.
yeah.
We were never taught that. Like
Hmm.
it doesn't exist. You're like, I just want to be you said a biochemist and I want to do this and I want to
Hmm.
study, da da da. If it has never been done, don't let that deter you. Just know it might be bumpy. When there is, think of this is the metaphor I'll leave you with. When you think about like a field, and someone says they want to build something, well, you have nothing but trees, you have wilderness. And so someone's
Right.
got to bring in all the tools, they have to survey the land, and you have to break that down to execute the vision. And so if you choose something that has never been built, know that it's going to take some time, but with the right tools, you can build what you need to. Just be patient and
Yeah.
keep and stay focused, as my dad said. So that's what I'll
Yep.
leave you with. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Dr. Cox, thank you so much for joining us on STEM the Gap. Really appreciate all your time and your insights that you had for us today. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.